Japan. And if you think about it, that's not very surprising, because they do sell us every year £70 billion worth of goods, more than we sell them. But when I move the conversation on to services and financial services, there was a distinct stiffening of his body language and kind of this just isn't possible. So I left that meeting pretty pessimistic about us having an all-round grown-up trade deal. Not pessimistic business-wise, because actually I'd much rather our financial services industry was able to have different rules, different regulations and be competitive. But pessimistic because ultimately it's the British Parliament. If you remember, big concessions being given, won by Parliament against the government. It's Parliament in the end that will have its say. And my position now is I think that Barnier will put a deal forward that it is very likely our Parliament will reject. If that happens, there is a constitutional crisis. And barring an immediate general election, and my goodness me, May calling an election, that really would be turkeys voting for Christmas, I do believe that a second referendum is now a very real risk. I want to make it clear, I don't want one, but I'm facing up to the fact that it could happen. And I'm saying to my fellow Leavers, where have you all gone? You've disappeared. We're not making the arguments. The other side are making the arguments. So am I right to fear that second referendum, or have I got it completely wrong? Let me know, folks, what you think by calling 0345 6060 973. You can, of course, if you think I'm paranoid, text to 84850. And I'm being joined today in the studio by, firstly, Alastair Campbell, and secondly, Lord Adonis. So do you know what? If you want to send them some messages and ask them some questions, you can do so on Twitter. Use the hashtag Farage and LBC at LBC. You can watch us on Facebook Live and comment there too. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce pro-Remainer, perhaps even Remainer-in-Chief, former Director of Communications with Tony Blair and Editor-at-Large for the New European, Alastair Campbell. Good morning.
Hi, Nigel.
Now, I noticed that your old boss and colleague Tony Blair is kind of back in politics in a way, isn't he? And he's really saying that, as I understand it, that the Labour Party ought to change its position and ought to become, I guess, really a pro-referendum party at the next general election.
I think certainly. I mean, it's really interesting to hear you talking there and to see your stuff in the Observer today, where you seem to feel that the Remain side has got its act together and the Leave side is falling apart. I have to tell you, it doesn't feel like that to me. But I think what is happening...
What, you mean that the Remain side is not as well organised as I fear?
I think you are a bit paranoid about that, if I'm being frank. I wish,
well, that's the first bit of good news I've had this morning.
I wish there was. And I certainly wish that the Labour Party in Parliament was reflecting what I think is a real anxiety in the country about where this Brexit is heading. I think where you're right to be concerned, and I think this maybe is a result of your seeing Barnier last week, I think there is a growing sense amongst the British public that this deal isn't going to be a good deal. I don't think we were ever going to get the so-called exact same benefits that we have now. We're leaving the biggest trading area. If we leave the single market, if we leave the customs union, I think we're going to do fundamental damage to our business, and I think people are sensing that. And I think from my perspective, I mean, look, I've been trying to push this line on the Labour Party. Let's get tough on Brexit, tough on the causes of Brexit. To go back to one of our older...
I'm amazed that you're reheating that one.
Well, do you know what? It was tough on crime, tough on the causes of crime. But I'll tell you, let me just explain what I mean by that. Tough on Brexit in that if the country does decide, do you know what, this is not what we thought we were going to get, this is really not going to do us any good, but this is where I think both Labour and the government are, in a sense, failing in their democratic duty at the moment, not really addressing those issues that led people in the first place to say, do you know what, I'm fed up with this.
Well, and, you know, it's interesting because I listened to the Remain argument, and you and I have been debating this ever since the referendum, and you always talk, Alastair, about economics. You always talk about saying you think leaving the single market,
yeah.
You know, leave it...
No, but actually, that's what I'm saying now.
But the real point, surely, is this, you know, your hometown, Burnley, is very classic of many of those northern parts of this country, traditionally Labour areas, but who voted to leave. And there was one issue, wasn't there? One issue that really motivated people to go to the polls, and that was getting back control of our immigration policy?
I don't think you can say there was just one issue. I
Well,
think there are
the
lots
key
of-
issue.
Right, there's certainly, but that sense, and now what I think a lot of people are feeling, I'm actually from Keighley, not Burnley, but I was with lots
Okay.
of Burnley fans yesterday at the
Selhurst Park.
Selhurst Park, where we
Losing to
lost,
Crystal Palace.
and Crystal Palace deserved to win, I'll give you that. But I think what people are starting to think is, okay, yes, it was as this sort of feeling about getting back control. That was the sort of genius of that line, take back control. And what's happening now is people feel actually, well, it's not happening. We were told this was going to be fairly straightforward. We were told that actually the costs were going to be minimal. We were going to get more money for the health service. It turns out we're getting less. We're going to get money back from Europe. It turns out we're going to have to pay in 39 billion to get it back. And business, I think, is really, and yes, you're right, maybe we focus too much on the economic argument, but the economic argument is fundamental to this. If people start to worry that we're going to be worse off as a result of Brexit, and I think we already are, by the way, not just looking at the value of the pound, you look at the budget with growth forecasts down for 5 years. I think we're being kept afloat by the growth of the world economy rather than our own. Inflation going up, food prices rising faster than they've done for 4 years.
Didn't we hear all this? Didn't we hear all this from you 20 years ago when you were one of the key advocates for us joining the euro? All the same arguments.
No.
That
No.
outside, prices would go up, investment would drop.
No, but prices are going up.
The City of London would collapse. I mean, you gave us all this on the
Nigel,
euro,
Nigel.
and you were wrong then, weren't you?
Well, first of all,
do you admit that you were wrong about wanting us to join the euro?
Well, first of all, as you know, I'm still very close to Tony Blair, but if you read my diaries, volumes, whatever it was, I was never quite on the same page as him on the euro. That's the first
but you were,
Me personally.
but you worked next with him every day
yes, I
for
did,
years.
because he was my boss. He was my boss, and I
So
did what he
okay,
wanted.
let me rephrase that then. Was Tony Blair wrong when he said we should join the euro 20 years ago?
I was not as enthusiastic as he was. But listen, you
Was he
just
wrong?
say, wait a minute, Nigel, you just
You
said...
see, you're asking me to believe, right?
No, but I'm asking you to look at what's happening now.
Yeah, fine. So you're
not
asking
predictions.
You're asking me to
this
believe.
This is happening now.
When Blair says it'll damage us,
No,
when
I'm
you
saying
say
it
it'll
is
damage us,
damaging us.
I'm asking you, I'm saying to you, your track record on this isn't that good.
I think our track record actually is pretty good, given that over the period of a Labour government, I think up to the crash, I think you'd have to say we had a pretty good record. My point is this is happening now. The pound, the devaluation of the pound, which is having effect on health spending, on defence spending, on all of these other things, a growth forecast where they've actually said for the next 5 years they've downgraded our growth forecast. That's our own government, and okay, you can say the forecasters get it right or wrong, but that's their assessment. The health service, and what's happening there, I think it's in the paper that you're in today, The Observer, there's a story alongside it about the ambulance recruitment going down, nurse recruitment going down. This is happening now. I'm not saying
I would
not
accept,
just the predictions.
I would
And if we
accept that we have a population crisis, that with the population rising by 500,000 a year, our health services are struggling terribly to keep up. But on this point of the pound,
we're not focusing on it
and
because
again,
of
I
Brexit.
keep hearing this argument about the pound. You know, the pound started falling in 2010. It fell far further between 2010 and the referendum than where it is now. The pound is down a bit from the referendum, but hey, it's bounced quite a lot. So I'm not buying into that.
It really hasn't. I mean, well, look.
Well, it's 135 against the dollar. It was down at 118 after the referendum.
We can. I think people get fed up. People just batting around the stats. But all I'm saying is, when the pound fell as it did, that wasn't a sort of technical readjustment. That was the world markets, which exist whether we like them or not, saying this is what we think is going to happen to the British economy. It is going to go into decline. And I think it is. Now, you can say, well, you said this before, you said that before.
Yeah.
But I think if you look at what is happening now...
I look at foreign direct investment at a record level last year. I look at manufacturing, the best it's been for 30 years. I look at UK growth higher than everybody, including our own organisations here, predicted.
No, hold on.
I mean, look, it may not be...
That. We've gone from the top of the G7 to the bottom.
We are growing at 1.8%. It may not be. It may not be electric, but we're growing. But let me ask you, let's get back to the Labour Party on this, because they are the opposition. And ultimately, you know, if I'm right... If I'm right to fear, and you would cheer, but if I'm right to fear a second referendum, it would be because the deal, ultimately, that is agreed with Barnier, gets rejected by the House of Commons, all right?
Well, and that will happen if it's a bad deal.
I know it will.
Right.
And that's the feeling I've had
surely, wait a minute, Nigel, but surely that is right. If we voted for something that was promised, where we were going to get great trade deals, we were going to boost our economy, get more money for the health service, all these things that we were promised, if it turns out we're getting none of that, surely the public is entitled to say, do you know what, I want to have a think about this
That
again.
is a failing of the government as opposed to a failing of Brexit. I mean, I was very, very struck
but the government's in charge of Brexit.
I mean, the meeting with Barnier. Well, yeah, and you have a cabinet of 25 people
who don't agree on anything.
17 of whom were Remainers.
So, but 18 months Nigel.
I was very struck that immigration. When I asked Barnier about immigration and what had been agreed thus far, he simply said, "This is all for the future." So it's not surprising that there are people getting, on the Leave side, getting very, very frustrated that they're not getting the kind of action and kind of delivery. But the Labour Party, your party, stood in that election back in June. They couldn't have been clearer. They said that vote for us and we will take you out of the European Union, out of the single market, and take back border controls. They're now not saying that, are they? Haven't Corbyn's Labour been very dishonest with the electorate?
Well, democracy in elections, as you know, they're complicated processes. I voted Labour. I've always voted Labour all my life. But in terms of Brexit, the reason that I was absolutely motivated to vote Labour, even though I knew that was in their manifesto, is I felt the only way to stop Theresa May getting a mandate for the hard Brexit, I think it was a UKIP Brexit.
What could be harder than the Labour manifesto?
Because we had to stop her getting that mandate. So I keep saying to the Labour Party, to Keir Starmer, Jeremy Corbyn, as you may know from these non-GQ interview, doesn't want to talk to me. But Keir, I will say, lots of people voted Labour, not, if you like, for the words in the manifesto. No, I'm sorry, but that's the fact.
That hardly gives us great trust in politics, does it?
Nigel, you said in the paper today, in the Observer today, you think there's a majority in Parliament against the Brexit that's being put forward. I hope that's true, because I certainly think there's a majority against it in the country at the moment.
That I don't agree with you about at all. I think the opinion polls show that 68 to 70% want the government to get on with it. I tell you what, this is unfinished business, and we're going to return in a minute. Am I right to fear a second referendum, folks? Alastair Campbell is going to stay with us, and he will take some of your calls. So put what you want directly to Alastair Campbell. You can do it by calling 0345 6060 973. You're listening to the Sunday edition of the Nigel Farage Show, exclusively on LBC. It's 10:17.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast on LBC.
Donald Trump has cancelled a visit to the UK planned for February. The US president had been expected to open the new US embassy in London. It is understood, of course, that Donald Trump is less than impressed with the deal that was done when Barack Obama decided to move the embassy. Tom Tugendhat is Conservative MP for Tunbridge and Malling and chairs the Foreign Affairs Committee.
Whoever lives in the White House and whoever lives in number 10, our partnership isn't about personalities, it's about shared values, shared interests, and a shared commitment to the international rules-based order that we spent the best part of 70 years building.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast, every weekday morning from 7, only on LBC.
WG for Business is a single-source solution for office supplies, furniture, print and business services. If you're a company director or partner with 50 staff or more, contact us today. We have a proven track record to save you as much as 45% on your office supplies and services, and we'd like to offer you a free corporate spend audit now. Find out more at wgforbusiness.com or text the word audit to 87007.
Oak Furnitureland's up to 50% off winter sale has extra savings that must end someday. With coffee tables from only $199, go online now to find a store near you.
Divorce. It threatens the things you've worked hard for in more ways than you can imagine. Your home, savings, pension, and most of all, your relationship with your children. Don't let divorce cost you any more than it has to. Cordell & Cordell is dedicated to helping men in matters relating to divorce. Call now on 0330 60 60 161 or visit cordellcordell.co.uk. Office in central London. A partner men can count on.
Too cold to go outside? Now you don't have to, thanks to the Vodafone Big Winter Sale. Enjoy non-stop streaming, sharing and surfing with the UK's lowest priced unlimited fibre broadband plus home phone. For only £20 a month for 18 months for existing mobile customers, plus $9.95 delivery. Just one of the amazing offers in the Vodafone Big Winter Sale. Go in store or online today. The future is exciting. Ready? For Vodafone.
18-month agreement, subject to credit check and availability. Full terms at vodafone.co.uk/broadband. Ends 28th of Feb.
Moving office is one of the most critical business decisions you will ever make. When designed, planned and managed well, it could reduce real estate costs, improve efficiency and increase profitability. Speak to Maris Interiors, who've been designing, fitting out and transforming workplaces for over 3 decades. Book your free consultation, attend a free seminar or get a free guidebook. Go to officerelocation.co.uk. Maris. Workplace design experts.
Do you feel as if you never get enough sleep? Hamsey's Sleep Centres have the answer. Buy a new mattress from our promotional range today and we'll give you up to £100 trade-in on your old one. And up to £200 off your new one, free local delivery, free mattress protector and a free pair of pillows. Plus a full 10-year guarantee. We'll even give you a 100-night sleep trial. Hamsey's, Beckenham, Bexley Heath, Leatherhead, New Malden and Wallington. And at hamseys.co.uk.
Grandad said in his day, London was called the Big Smoke. They worked hard to reduce pollution then. Now we have a chance to do the same. The T-Charge has started. So from now on, many older vehicles driven in the central London congestion charge zone from 7 a.m. until 6 p.m. on weekdays are subject to the additional £10 daily T-Charge. This is part of the commitment by the Mayor of London and TfL to help clean up London's dangerously polluted air. Walk, cycle or take public transport where possible. Or pay online. Search T-Charge to find out more. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters.
Think you've got what it takes to be a champion quizmaster? Pit your wits against your nearest and dearest by holding a mighty quiz for Alzheimer's Research UK.
The Nigel Farage Show on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Monsieur Barnier's made me very pessimistic about the deal. I think it's quite deliberate, actually. In fact, I think there's actually collusion going on between the Remainers, the Ramonas, as I call them. I've got one here with me, Alastair Campbell. He doesn't agree. He thinks I'm paranoid. Hey-ho. But I'm really worried that deal could get vetoed by Parliament. That could lead us to a second referendum. And, yeah, we're going to take your questions. I'm just going to ask Alastair Campbell two more things. Firstly, Alastair, is there a deal? Is there a deal that David Davis could come back with that you would find acceptable?
I don't think there's any deal that will give us what he's promised, which is the exact same benefits as what we have now. And so I think it's highly unlikely. And also I think maybe what you were picking up possibly with Barnier, I think there was a point at which the Europeans felt, do you know what, the Brits are serious about trying to get something that does get us both to the best of both worlds, if that's possible, which I don't think it is. And I think they're picking up the noises from the government, who I think are actually far closer to your position than you're letting on. I think that they're thinking, you know, the Brits are not serious, and they probably are starting to play much harder ball.
So, how hard will you campaign for a second referendum?
Well, I hate this phrase, a second referendum, and I'll tell you why. We've had a referendum and we lost and you won. I accept that. But I think that what we're seeing is the public becoming more and more anxious, despite both the main parties, as you said earlier, heading in the direction of this has to happen. The public becoming more and more anxious as they realise that the deal that we may get is not going to match up to their expectations of what Brexit was going to be. So I see it as possibly a general election and/or a fresh referendum.
A fresh referendum?
On the question, on the deal. A fresh referendum, yeah.
Yeah,
and not a question of campaigning for that. Look, I've made no bones about it, Nigel, since June the 24th to 2016. I think if you feel as I do, that this is a catastrophe for Britain, for your kids, for future generations, and what Britain is going to be as a country, I think you have to fight that, and I'm going to carry on fighting.
Are you excited about the United States of Europe? I mean, they're going to have a European army by 2025. They're going to have foreign policy without veto by 2025.
No.
Juncker's also said
I don't come at this.
No country will be exempted from Schengen or the euro. Does that prospect excite you?
Not terribly. I don't come at this from a pro-European perspective. I come at this from a British perspective. And you talk about patriotism, and we talked about the value of the pound. I'm sure you know lots of people at the MOD as I do. They are really, really struggling at the moment on defence procurement because they're having to cancel orders. We're flogging frigates to the South Americans. So our defences are being eroded, in my view, because of Brexit.
If you were to win, and we were to revoke Article 50, and we were to stay part of the European Union, are you prepared to accept the terms that Mr Juncker has set out to a standing ovation in Parliament, that we must all join the euro, we must all join the European defence community? Would you accept those terms?
No. And
well, you can't have it both ways.
No, wait a minute. I think this is where you're wrong, Nigel, because I think what I think... And actually, you mentioned Tony Blair earlier. The paper that he produced on the Global Institute website recently. I honestly think people should read it, because I know people like to shoot the messenger, but he's got a lot of interesting things to say. But I think my real worry about this is that Brexit if it does happen, and I'm actually pessimistic on the opposite to you, I think it is going to happen, and I think it is going to be a disaster. But if it happens, the ideal outcome to me is that Brexit actually is used as leverage for real reform in Europe, and I think that actually the Europeans are keener on that than you give them credit for, particularly Macron. Macron.
You know, if the European project was to become cooperative, where nation states genuinely work together,
which I think they do,
I'd have no problem with it. It is the fact that European law is made by the Commission, and we the voters can't change it. And enough of me. Let's go to the public. Elaine says to me, Campbell's back on the economy. We voted for immigration control and sovereignty. And Campbell can't answer how we deal with these while still in the European Union. So if we stay in the European Union, how do we get immigration controls? And I think you would accept the public want that.
I think they do. And also, I think she's being unfair because when I talked about tough on Brexit, tough on the causes of Brexit, what I meant by that was actually we do have to address those concerns that people expressed. Whether that's housing, whether that's immigration. Well, I think, you see, Jeremy, back to the Labour Party, Jeremy Corbyn seems to be saying that the reason why he's come to this kind of, pro-Brexit position, I think he's always historically been Eurosceptical, we know that, but is that he says that there was everything that was there were lots in his manifesto that he wouldn't be able to do as a member of the European Union, and I just don't believe that. There's far more that we can do.
Well, you can't nationalise the railways as a European Union member, so he's got a point there. But let me get back to this. How could you control immigration as a European Union member?
You can, look, you've got a situation now, you take Northern Ireland there, right? So, you can either have hard border, hard Brexit, or you can have freedom of movement.
Let's not complicate this with Ireland, because Ireland's always complicated in any of these debates.
Even though we were told, at the end of phase one that it had been resolved, which it hasn't.
And important, and the Irish Taoiseach is coming to Strasbourg this week. I'll be in debate with him on Wednesday. But do you not accept the fact that it's pretty much impossible to control the numbers coming to Britain as a European Union member?
And we're going to continue. What your side has done, though, Nigel, you've actually, I think, been fundamentally dishonest about this, because we're going to have continuing difficulties in controlling immigration.
We can do as we wish as a free country.
No, but you may be able to do that, and then you do have to address the economic downside.
I think you're ignoring this. Let's go to Vicky in Croydon. Vicky, good morning.
Hello, how are you?
I'm well. What would you like to put to Alastair Campbell?
Alastair, do you ever think that maybe the like Barnier and the other people sort of like doing the sort of talking about where we're going to go in the future, do you not think that they might be manipulating the situation a little bit so that they throw us into a bit of a tears, so we end up having to have another referendum in the hope that we would vote to remain?
This is, Vicky, a little bit what I was saying. Are they colluding with Remainers in this country to try and force us into it?
I mean, there's part of it that says I wish they were.
But no, think that's honest.
I don't think so, Vicky. I mean, I think that what's really interesting about watching these negotiations, you've got our government, one government with effectively 4 different camps within the cabinet, even 18 months in, failed to agree a strategy against Barnier representing a pretty united collection of 27 countries. I think they're trying to make the best of a bad job. I genuinely think that's the case. I think at the start they would have liked to have imagined that Britain might in the end stay. I think they've moved beyond that, and that's why actually I'm pessimistic in a way that Nigel ought, I think, to be optimistic.
You satisfied with that, Vicky?
Well, to be honest with you, as somebody who voted leave, I'm pessimistic the other way, definitely.
Oh, well, I'm cheered by that.
I strongly believe that we will not leave in any meaningful way. Even without another referendum, I'm saying another referendum to sort of like, to sort of appease both of you. I do believe that.
I don't want another referendum, Vicky. I just want us to leave. But
I want us to leave.
But Vicky, when I went through earlier those things about inflation going up, and I'm not saying it's all because of Brexit, but let's say that some of it is, or defence orders, or the health service, and the lies that we were told about that. Has nothing happened since that has in any way made you a little bit troubled?
No, and the reason being, because of the flip side, you said earlier on that you weren't happy with the idea of a massive army, etc. That's the route we would go down if we remained, and there wouldn't be much choice in the end about that.
I think you're right. Vicky, I thank you. I'm going to take... Time is very tight. Helen from Wandsworth, we haven't got much time, but I know you've got a very important question to put. Good morning.
Good morning. I would like to ask whether you think that the Labour Party is committing suicide by completely ignoring or trying to destroy the outcome of the referendum.
I don't agree that. I wish the Labour Party would move on this to a much more anti-Brexit posture. I agree there are political risks, but I think that if what the Labour Party has to do, I think, is understand the reasons why people voted leave and address those concerns in the context of explaining that those concerns are not going to be helped by Brexit. And one of the real worries I have about Brexit, Nigel says that the leavers have all scattered and gone to the winds. The ones who seem to me to be really still fighting hard for Brexit on the political landscape are what I would view as the hard right in the Tory party, UKIP, what have you. And I think that a lot of the people who voted leave in working class areas, particularly in the north of England and some of the poorer parts of Scotland and Wales, I think they are the ones who are going to get hardest hit.
Helen, I'm going to come back. We're going to do more of that question, because I think there are 4 to 5 million Labour Brexit voters out there that Labour could lose if they go down the Blair Campbell route. You're listening to the Sunday edition of the Nigel Farage Show, exclusively on LBC. It's now 10:30 and time for the news with Andy Ivey.
Campaigners are welcoming a potential judicial review of the decision to release serial sex attacker John Warboys. There's been anger at the parole board's ruling that he can be freed after less than 10 years in jail. The governor of Hawaii says an employee pushed the wrong button, sending out a warning of an incoming ballistic missile. It was broadcast to mobile phones and on radio and TV before being declared a false alarm. Talks are expected today on the future of Britain's second largest construction firm, which is understood to be on the verge of collapse. Carillion is involved in major projects, including the HS2 high-speed rail line. LBC weather, dry with sunny spells, though cloud will linger in southeast England. Rain moving into western Scotland and Northern Ireland this afternoon. Highs of 8 degrees.
LBC travel in Essex on the M11 southbound. There's a lane closed on the entry slip road at junction 7 for Harlow because a car's overturned. The queues past St Pancras Station on Euston Road eastbound. There's a lane blocked because of an accident at Argyle Street. In Putney, the South Circular Upper Richmond Road is partially blocked eastbound at Carlton Drive because of an accident at East Putney Station. In West Sussex, the M23 northbound is closed until tomorrow morning. That's between junction 10 for Crawley and junction 9 for Gatwick Airport, where resurfacing works continue. And on the rails, there's no service on Great Northern between Finsbury Park and Moorgate because of a signalling problem. LBC Travel, I'm Dave Goff.
This is LBC.
Westway. It's here, the Westway Nissan January sale, with list price savings of up to 38% on a range of over 1,000 nearly new and used Nissans. Plus, there's up to £1,000 towards your deposit and up to 2 years free servicing, with representative 9.9% APR when you buy through Nissan Finance, subject to status. With up to £5,515 savings, the Westway Nissan January sale is way more than just a sale, so hurry. To find your nearest Westway, Google Westway Nissan today.
Make your money go further. Travel on the night tube or London Overground night services and you'll only need to pay an off-peak fare, so it costs less than you may think, which is good news for your wallet. It's part of the commitment by the Mayor and TfL to make travel in London more affordable. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters.
This is an important announcement. Flu viruses will live for hours on hard surfaces, making flu very easy to spread. So whenever you sneeze or cough, always remember, catch it, trap the germs in a tissue, bin it, throw the tissue away, kill it. Wash your hands to get rid of any remaining germs. Catch it, bin it, kill it. For more information about how to protect you and your family from flu this winter, visit nhs.uk/staywell.
Get the Red Entertainment SIM plan with unlimited minutes and 8 gig of data, plus 2 Spotify Premium, Sky Sports Mobile TV or Now TV for only £18 a month. The Vodafone Big Winter Sale, in store and online. The future is exciting. Ready? Vodafone.
12-month agreement. Credit check and RPI increase apply. See vodafone.co.uk/terms. Standard UK landline and mobile minutes. Ends 31st of Jan.
Namaste. Welcome to Mala, London's unique Indian dining experience. Located at the historic St Catherine's Docks, the hidden jewel of London. Marvel at the authentic antiques, murals and paintings from India's rich history. Then enjoy the finest Indian cuisine, traditionally prepared with recipes that have been handed down through the centuries. For a truly authentic taste of India, visit malarestaurant.com.
You can take off, fly and land a Boeing 737 from just about any airport in the world.
100.
Without even leaving the city
30.
at Flight Experience London. an officially licensed Boeing product. It's the ultimate flight simulator used for real pilot training. Our amazing sale is now on, with prices from just £99. Book online at london.flightexperience.com for the ultimate gift and take to the sky at Flight Experience London.
When the Harrison family had a smart meter installed, they weren't entirely sure whereabouts in the home they'd be able to save energy. But they were determined to get gas and lecky under control. With the help of the handy in-home display, it didn't take long to see which energy guzzlers were costing the most money.
Aha!
Now gas and lecky don't stand a chance. The Harrisons are determined to keep their energy waste to a minimum. Contact your energy supplier today about getting your smart meter at no extra cost.
It's Super Weekend at Lidl with up to 50% off selected products. Get 6 cartons of multivitamin juice, only 79p. An 8-pack of assorted muesli bars, just 59p. And a bottle of Merlot for only £2.99. Lidl, big on quality, little on price. Subject to availability, NI may vary, selected stores while stocks last.
This is LBC, the Nigel Farage Show. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Tweet at LBC using the hashtag Farage on LBC.
Well, much to my surprise, Alastair Campbell and I are having an almost civilised conversation here this morning, and he's agreed to stay because he wants to take your calls and your questions. So without further ado, I'm going to go to Frank in Eastbourne. Frank, good morning to you.
Good morning, guys.
Good
I've
morning.
got a question for Alastair.
Yep.
Yeah, he keeps coming on saying about the value of the pound. The pound has dropped. But in 2008, the pound was 102. There's 102 to the euro. And in 2015, it went up, the pound went up to the value of 144. So currencies go up and down all the time. And just before the referendum, the pound was overvalued. Most people said it was overvalued. So why does they keep going on about that? The other question, if I can, about the money going to the NHS, it was never going to go to the NHS until we actually left the EU. It wasn't going to the day after we voted out. It wasn't going to go to the...
Frank, you've put two very clear questions to Alastair. Alastair, you're wrong about sterling, because actually it oscillates. And it's been falling for some time.
No, I mean, that's a statement of fact, and you're absolutely right. Currencies go up and they go down, but I think that the reason, as I said earlier, for the pretty profound devaluation that happened was because the markets were signalling what they felt would be and feared would be the impact long-term upon the economy. And I think, yes, I was never a great fan of the whole sort of Project Fear, the world was going to end and so forth, but I do think there has been fundamental economic damage, and I think that will continue. Bear in mind, as you say, we haven't actually left. This is signalling what the markets think will happen. Added to which, the other reason why I get, business I know has a very difficult job to do because they don't particularly want to fall out with government, but when you have a situation where only 2% of British businesses, according to the Chamber of Commerce, actually want to leave the single market, when you have I know people sort of like to dismiss the CBI as just being about big business, but they are very, very important players in the economy, that they have real, genuine concerns that if we get pushed towards this no-deal scenario, that is literally going to be a cataclysm for our economy, then, you can't just dismiss that.
Well, that is their position, but of course it was interesting to see, wasn't it, former CBI Director General and former Trade Minister under a Labour government, Digby Jones.
Yeah, well, you can find
who's reached a different view. I'm going to go back to this pound argument just quickly. Yeah. The day before we left the European Union, when all the polls said we'd stay,
we haven't left yet.
Sterling dollar was 143. It's now 136. I'm going to rattle on through. Peter is in Wimbledon. Good morning, Peter.
Good morning, guys. Thanks for taking the call. My question to Alistair is, while it is understandable that people on the Leave side never kind of warn us about so-called benefits of our financial sector losing EU trading passports or having the Irish border reinstated, we hardly heard people on the Remain side talking about things like this. And those decisions, those issues are very, very important, and they have the biggest impact on the British economy because, as you know, financial sector is the biggest contributor.
80%, yeah. Listen, I totally agree with you, and I'm not going to sit here and defend every aspect of the Remain campaign, because in many areas it was absolutely terrible. One of the things I desperately tried to do, for example, you mentioned Ireland, during the campaign, I went to Dublin and to Northern Ireland several times saying to the Irish and to people in Northern Ireland, you've got to make more of a noise about the impact on you, because it wasn't being done in the campaign. I think the only time Northern Ireland really became an issue in the campaign was when Tony Blair and John Major went there to draw attention to what they saw as potential difficulties for the peace process if we did end up with a hard Brexit and a hard border. So I totally agree with you. I'm not defending the campaign, but I think what's happening now, and this is I think it's great that you're having, these sorts of questions are coming up on a programme like this, because I think we're having the debate now that frankly we should have had during the referendum about real issues that are going to affect the future.
Did Project Fear, in a sense, backfire in the end?
I think it did. I think what happened was that David Cameron, in a sense, fought the last campaign. It was the same as the Scottish referendum campaign. It was the same as his election campaign against Ed Miliband. There was no kind of hope. There was no positive sort of message about Britain and Europe.
Remain told us that if we leave, it'll be a disaster. But they didn't tell us why staying in it would be a good thing. And I do agree with that. I mean,
I think fighting for a status quo is hard. But I think if you've had a situation where, let's be frank, David Cameron had the referendum because he was worried about UKIP and he was worried about the rise of the Tory right, and he wanted to keep it quiet for the referendum, for the election, so he said, we'll have a referendum. And he could go into that election saying, we're the only party promising you, and that helped him become Prime Minister. But look where he is now. So it was a classic... I think it was a classic confusion of tactics and strategy, but we are now picking up the pieces. And as you say, those two issues, whether it's 80% of the economy with passporting of services and the service economy being so fundamental to our future economic success, or it's the Irish question, we still haven't addressed them.
Well, I think, as I say, I take a different view on financial services. I think EU regulations damaging financial services, and we've got a chance to break free. Support coming in for Alastair Campbell. I think Brexit would be an absolute disaster. There is nothing better than being part of the biggest market economy in the world. Second referendum is a good idea. Let's go to Chelmsford, to Lorraine. Good morning, Lorraine.
Hello there. Good morning, Nigel and Alastair. I would like to ask Alastair what his opinion is of yesterday the German Foreign Minister, Sigmar Gabriel, revealed this shocking vision of the future for the EU. He has suggested that Europe, the countries of Europe, will only be able to act on a sovereign basis via the European Union. They're talking now of a centralised taxation, centralised budgets, handing out NI numbers to the European citizens, all the different countries there. And in fact, we will be handing over this country to become nothing more than a region of Europe.
Okay, no, Lorraine, and Lorraine raises those points, and I used different ones earlier, Alistair. I talked about the European army, I talked about the fact that nobody could be outside Schengen or the euro. I mean, surely at some point, you and your side of the argument have got to come clean. Which is it? Are we outside the European Union, or are we part of a full political union? You simply can't have both in the future.
I don't agree with that. You see, look, you've got a situation going. Politics, as you know, Nigel, is complicated. It's messy. The European Union is complicated and messy. And one of the difficulties in the referendum campaign is that we were given these black and white arguments. You've got a situation at the moment where Angela Merkel didn't do as well in the election as she wanted to do. She's in the business of trying to put together a coalition government. All sorts of things are getting said during that negotiation process. And I didn't see Sigmar Gabriel's comments yesterday, but it echoes what Schulz says, and I accept that.
It echoes what everybody is saying, because they're terrified. They're terrified of what's happening in Poland, Hungary, Catalonia. This is, I mean, come on.
Rightly.
The plan is to build a United States of Europe, isn't it?
The plan, I think, I don't support United States of Europe, and also,
but if the option,
Theresa May,
if the option, and what Lorraine's really asking you, if the option is we become part of a United States of Europe, or we stay with Brexit, which in those circumstances, up against the wall, which do you choose?
OK, if it was the caricature of a United States of Europe that your side of the argument has been presenting for the last 2 decades...
And we've been right.
No, you haven't been right. You've been talking about a European army. Look, you've got Macron meeting Theresa May this week because the two defence powers... It's not black and white, Nigel, and you know that. I don't support that vision.
Right.
Right, but I don't support your vision either.
Okay,
So I fight for something where Britain is a sovereign nation playing its full part within the European Union. That's what I support.
If the day comes within the European Union, let's say you win, and there's a second referendum and it's reversed and all the rest of it. I pray not, but say it is, would you then, as a member of a member of the European Union, if we're told it's very simple, you either join the euro or you leave, and that's what it's coming to. You know, they're going to get rid of all the exemptions.
I think it's coming.
All the exceptions.
This is why.
What do you do in that situation?
This is why this year is so important, because I think if we come out, it will be very difficult to get back in, which I frankly believe the next generation will want us to, unless we then do go down that closer to United States of Europe route. But I certainly do think, in general, and I'm not saying I support everything that Sigmar Gabriel said or that Schulz says, but I do think that at a time when you've got China on the rise to the extent that it is, you've got America, which I think is going through a very, very troubled period, and where we won't be able to rely on America in the way that historically we have been, then I think it's politically crazy for us to pull ourselves out.
So United States of Europe's the future?
No, it's not, Nigel. I'm not saying that. This is what you do. You turn it into black and white.
But I think ultimately...
You fight for what you believe, but not by leaving.
I'm so used to this. I had Nick Clegg tell me, on the stage... Nick Ferrari hosted LBC Debate in 2014 when I said one of the reasons I want to leave is I don't want to become part of a European army. I think it will actually destroy
do you want closer defence cooperation?
Do you know what?
Do you want closer defence cooperation?
I want NATO to be the model, not something that is actually is tempting to replicate.
Why is Theresa May going to see Macron this week? Because France and Britain will remain the important defence powers, and we become less powerful
I very much hope
if we leave them.
But what's interesting is Clegg said that I was a dangerous fantasist. There are no plans for a European army, and sure enough, we're told it's on the table. And this is the story all the way through. Look, the callers are enjoying this so much. We're going to do one more.
Go on.
All right? We're going to do a last one. Will from Oxford, good morning. You've got the last question here to Alastair Campbell. Make it a good one.
My question kind of refers to what you were just talking about, is that essentially enormous amounts of young people, A, want to stop Brexit, and B, are very pro-European. So it seems to me that we're going to go down this path, leave Europe, but then in 15 or 20 years' time, when our generation, is on has the levers of power, we're going to go back in, but we're going to have to go back in on much worse terms.
Yep.
And it seems that we're wasting all this time, energy, and money.
Absolutely.
When there's real crises in the country, in education, health, mental health, Alistair, schools, prisons, blah, blah, blah.
Exactly.
What the hell is the point of this?
Will, just before Alistair answers that, something, and I've raised this before, a really interesting point, that in this country, about 2/3, maybe a tad more, of the under-30s voted to remain, and there are people like Will who feel strongly pro-European. There's no question about that. What is so fascinating is across the whole of the rest of the continent, it's the opposite. So you take Italy, you take France, you take countries like that, where it's the older generation that want to stay in the European Union.
Maybe because they remember the war a bit more deeply than we do.
And it's the younger... I think, in fact, I think the big reason is the euro. I think, had we listened to Alastair Campbell's boss 20 years ago and joined the euro, you'd probably now be a young rebel. But right across Europe, if you look at the parties on the left and right, whether it's the Freedom Party in Austria, whether it's Syriza in Greece, whether it's opinion polling in Italy, it's quite the biggest difference between us and the rest of the EU.
Nigel, we're
is
British,
the young are against it.
We're British. And we're in Britain, and if you look at a graph of the demographics of the Remain Leave, basically the older you get, the more likely you've been to a leaver, and Will's generation, I think, are being totally betrayed. And so, then they weren't allowed to vote. Again, Cameron was so arrogant, he didn't, I think he should have made an effort to have 16 and 17-year-olds
voting. Why not 14 or 12?
Because I think 16 is a reasonable cut-off point. You have to have a cut-off point, and I think it really energised the debate in Scotland in the referendum. But the point he makes as well about bandwidth, this government is focused totally on Brexit. She stood up the other day, Theresa May, said, environment's my priority. She says, mental health is my priority. She's got one priority, and that is surviving by delivering a Brexit that, as you've said before, and on this I agree with you, she does not believe in. So I think, and Will's absolutely right, a future generation, they're going to look back and they're going to say, that generation of Theresa May, Boris Johnson, David Davis, Liam Fox, and here's the other thing, Nigel, people do not trust those people on the competence level. They have exposed themselves as being so incompetent on so many issues. You've got Johnson in one of the newspapers today apparently being reprimanded at a cabinet meeting the other day because he confused Yemen and Lebanon in a discussion about the Middle East. He was talking about the Saudis attacking Lebanon when he meant Yemen. I mean, it's pathetic. But these are the people that you are saying we have to trust
mind you, the Labour
to deliver hard
mind you, the
Brexit.
Labour Party can't do some. So, you know, you could look at it all sorts of different ways. All I would say to Will is in 15 years' time it won't exist. You can see right across Europe the opposition, left, centre and right to this project is growing. If one day we have a completely different kind of Europe that is based on a cooperative structure.
But we're only going to get that if we stay in and fight for it, Nigel, and I think we're letting Will's generation down by saying,
I have
put
a
up the
feeling,
drawbridge, leave it, and let's try and collapse
I have
the
a
whole
feeling
show.
that I have a feeling that countries like Hungary are probably headed for the exit door pretty rapidly too.
Hungary?
You know?
My God, you talk about right-wing demagoguery. I mean, that's the sort of politics we've got to be fighting, not pandering to.
Well, actually, Alastair, I think what you'll find is that if you take away from people their basic democratic rights, don't be surprised if they move to the left or the right.
Maybe.
Because I don't think...
But let's not praise that. Let's fight
when we get to democracy, when we get to the point about democracy, you know, the key flaw with the European Union is once something becomes a piece of European law, there is nothing the British government, nothing the British Parliament, or nothing the British voter can do to change any one piece of legislation.
As Theresa May said in the introduction to her white paper, we have always had sovereignty over our own decision-making, and we have.
Just that we gave it away. I tell you what, Alastair, we're having much too much fun here. I've got millions I'm going to keep to the top of the hour. Lock the door. You're listening to the Sunday edition of the Nigel Farage Show, exclusively at LBC. It's now 10:50.
This is LBC.
This is the sound of a Virgin holiday at Walt Disney World Resort, Florida. And this is the sound of it disappearing in our January sale. The Virgin Holiday Sale. It won't last forever. Book direct at your nearest Virgin Holiday store. Seize the holiday. Virgin Holidays. Sale now on. At all protected.
Don't be down. See, things are looking up. There's an upbeat upside to 2018 already. Just step up to the Renault Upgrade event. Upgrade your old car and get up to an additional £2,000 towards a Renault Kadjar, all-new Koleos or new Captur. It's up to you. Just order your upgrade by the 31st of March 2018. Visit renault.co.uk/upgrade to find out more. Vehicles must be registered by the 31st of March 2018, subject to status, T's and C's apply, 18+. Retail customers only, participating dealers only.
No harm in a little snack, is there?
Although
around half the sugar our kids eat comes from snacks and sugary drinks.
Whoa.
And too much sugar could lead to the build-up of fat inside and painful tooth decay.
Oh no!
So what can we do?
Look for 100-calorie snacks.
2 a day max.
Look for 100-calorie snacks. 2 a day max. Look for 100-calorie snacks. 2 a day max.
Look for 100-calorie snacks.
2 a day max.
Search Change for Life for healthier snack ideas and money off vouchers.
Why let the thought of your tax return peck away at you?
Tax.
Make them stop. Don't keep ducking it. Do your tax return by the 31st of January at gov.uk/self-assessment. And don't forget to pay what you owe.
Tax.
Save up to a cool £400 in the BT January sale. Get super fast Infinity with our Smart Hub, awarded Best Buy Router by Which. And get great deals on TV and mobile. But get your skates on. The BT January sale ends Wednesday the 31st. Search BT Broadband to join BT today.
Saving over 18 months with unlimited BT Infinity, BT TV Max and selected 6GB handset deals with £5 monthly broadband discount.
The world's best low-cost long-haul airline just got better. Fly Norwegian to America from as little as £130. Start your holiday on board our Boeing 787 Dreamliner with hours of blockbuster entertainment flying non-stop from London Gatwick. Book now at norwegian.com. Fares are one way, including taxes, subject to availability. Book by 15th January, travel from 1st February. Date exclusions apply. Visit norwegian.com for full details.
Nana's Magic Soup.
I'm looking after my grandson today. He's not feeling well and my daughter's at work. So I'm cooking something to make him feel better. It's lots of stuff he doesn't normally like. Carrots, onions, peppers. Until I put them all in the blender and turn them into a bowl of Nana's magic soup. Thanks, Nana. You're welcome, my love.
Make your own magic soup that's packed with flavour and 2 of your 5 a day. Food Love Stories. Brought to you by Tesco.
Leading Britain's conversation. LBC, The Nigel Farage Show.
Well, I'm fearing a second referendum, and it's interesting reading Andrew Rawnsley today, writing in The Observer, who pretty much, he thinks it's less likely than I do, but he makes the point here. He says, in the event that a Brexit deal is blocked in Parliament, there will be a constitutional crisis, and it's anyone's guess what would happen next. A not unreasonable conjecture is that Mrs May would have no other option but to go back to the country with another referendum. And that is exactly what I fear.
Or an election.
Well, or an election.
And Labour then would have to have a real decision to make about what position they put forward in the country.
I couldn't agree more. I think Labour have, frankly, been all over the place on this. In the general election, in the North, their manifesto said to Leavers and a lot of 2015 UKIP voters, actually, let's be honest about this, you can vote for us because we're going to control borders, leave the single market, you get what you want. And kind of in London, they were saying, oh, well, it's...
Vote for us, we're the best chance of stopping Brexit.
And someone, in fact, London Van Man, he calls himself here on text.
Right, looking forward
he
to
says
this.
Campbell has basically said that Labour lied at the 2017 general election.
No, I don't think that's fair. I think that, look, in the end, in an election, you have to make a choice about who to vote for. And I was simply making the point that I voted Labour in the full knowledge of what they were saying, but actually part of my motivation was to stop Theresa May getting a majority for her hard Brexit. That's what I'm saying.
No, fine. I tell you what, rather than exploring this, because you and I have done quite a lot of talking, let's get the public. The only place on a Sunday, amidst the plethora of radio and television shows where it is politicians talking about politicians, journalists talking about politicians, and worst of all, journalists talking about journalists.
That's awful.
And there's loads of it out there. Here, it is the public. And we're going to go to Lowestoft on the East Coast, going to go to June. June, have you got a question for Alastair Campbell?
Yes, I have got a question for Alastair. Good morning, Alastair.
Hello, June.
Hello. Alastair, do you believe in democracy?
I do, yeah.
Okay. Do you believe that Nigel Farage pulled off one of the biggest achievements in politician history? Only people like Winston Churchill could have done.
I'm not going to compare Nigel Farage or indeed any other current-day politician to Winston Churchill, but I do agree that Nigel played a significant part in forcing David Cameron to have a referendum and in then campaigning for what he believes in. I do, yeah.
Right, okay. So, obviously, the Leave campaign, UKIP, etc., we've all really worked extremely hard.
Yep.
So, let us get on with it. Let us leave.
Okay.
And let us have a crack at it, okay?
Okay.
Now, if we get it wrong, then you and your friend Mr. Blair, who has got lots and lots of money, can then afford to take the Brexiteers on, and then you get your referendum.
Okay, June, I'm going to stop you there.
Let me just say, June, that democracy did not stop on June the 23rd, 2016. I'll give you another argument about democracy. Theresa May went to the electorate at the 2017 general election, specifically saying, I want a mandate for this Brexit, and every vote you give me strengthens my hand in these negotiations, and the public rejected that. So democracy is a process, is not a moment. And I don't believe any more... And remember, Nigel did say, before the referendum, that if it was 52-48 the other way, it would not be settled.
Well,
you did say that.
I did say there'd be Tory voices moaning, but in reality, there wouldn't have been another referendum for 25 years.
But I don't believe in fighting for things I don't believe in.
We're going to take one more. Matthew from Heathrow, time is very tight. You've got 25 seconds to put a question to Alastair, Matthew.
OK, Alastair, I just wanted to ask, why is Labour just sitting on the fence and not join the cross-party talks this week with the Green Party and all the other parties? Because Brexit should be cross-party.
Well, I really wish that Jeremy Corbyn had gone to that meeting, because if he really wants to help working people in this country, he does have to stand up to the fact that the Brexit is being pursued by Theresa May will damage the very people he wants to help.
OK, listen, that's that. What I just want to say... Alastair Campbell, former Director of Communications for Tony Blair, Editor-at-Large for the New European. I want to say a massive thank you for coming in and doing this. Not for me, but for all the listeners. We've examined a lot of this. I think this one will run and run in many senses. I still firmly believe that actually in the end there isn't going to be much choice with the European project. Either you're part of the United States or you're not. But that aside, thank you ever so much for coming in, and I hope at some point you come and do it again, even hearing rumours that maybe you'll be hosting some LBC shows in the time coming up, so that'll be good. And in the next hour we're going to continue this debate. Am I right to fear a second referendum? And guess who's coming in? Lord Adonis, a man I had a stand-up fight with in the week. I even called him a weasel. It all starts next.
He's a fine man.
On FM, online, on your mobile and on digital radio. Leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.
From Global's newsroom at 11 o'clock, campaigners are welcoming a potential judicial review of the decision to free serial sex attacker John Warboys. Justice Secretary David Gauke has asked for legal advice on whether the Parole Board's decision can be challenged in court. His shadow, Richard Bergen, has told LBC he thinks the case has been handled terribly.
It was scandalous and completely unacceptable that victims weren't properly notified and their voices therefore not heard.
The SNP, Liberal Democrats, Plaid Cymru and Greens are calling on Labour to back their attempt to keep the UK in the single market and customs union after Brexit. They're all supporting an amendment to the EU withdrawal bill. The move follows a meeting between the four party leaders which Labour refused to attend. Tony Blair's former Director of Communications, Alastair Campbell, has told Nigel he wants Jeremy Corbyn to change his position.
I wish the Labour Party would move on this to a much more anti-Brexit posture. I agree there are political risks, but I think that if what the Labour Party has to do, I think, is understand the reasons why people voted leave and address those concerns in the context of explaining that those concerns are not going to be helped by Brexit.
The Governor of Hawaii has apologised after people across the US islands were sent an alert saying a missile was heading for their islands. It was broadcast to mobile phones and on radio and TV. Humberside police have cordoned off a village near Driffield as they search for a man suspected of attacking a couple at their home using a crossbow. A 30-year-old man's died and a woman is in a stable condition in hospital following the attack on Friday evening. Emergency talks are expected today on a rescue plan for Britain's second-largest construction firm. Carillion has debts of £1.5 billion. It employs more than 19,000 people in the UK and has contracts in the rail industry, education and the NHS. Lib Dem leader and former business secretary Sir Vince Cable says ministers can help.
It's very important that the contracts are kept alive, and the government can do that. It can take them in-house, it can re-tender, it can keep the supply chains, the tens of thousands of jobs, but we don't have to protect the shareholders and the creditors.
Mark Wahlberg is going to donate the $1.5 million he made reshooting scenes for All the Money in the World to the anti-sexual harassment campaign Time's Up. His co-star Michelle Williams received less than $1,000 for redoing scenes after Kevin Spacey was dropped. LBC weather, dry with sunny spells, though cloud will linger in south-east England. Rain moving into western Scotland and Northern Ireland this afternoon. Highs of 8 degrees. From Global's newsroom for LBC, I'm Andy Ivy.
Do you spit blood when you brush? You could be on a journey to much worse.
Next stop, bad breath, receding gums, final destination, tooth loss.
If you spit blood, you may have gum disease. Ignore it and you could be on a journey to much worse. Switch to Corsadil Ultra Clean toothpaste. When used twice daily, it's 4 times more effective than a regular toothpaste at removing the buildup of bacteria, the main cause of bleeding gums. Help leave bleeding gums behind. Corsadil Ultra Clean. Help stop and prevent bleeding gums.
LBC travel in Hendon, Kingsbury Road is closed in both directions between the A5 Edgware Road and Goldsmith Avenue because of an accident. The Recuse past St Pancras Station on Euston Road eastbound. There's a lane blocked because of an accident at Argyle Street. Shepherd's Bush Green, the traffic lights aren't working at Goldhawk Road near the Shepherd's Bush Empire. In West Sussex, the M23 northbound is closed until tomorrow morning. That's between Junction 10 for Crawley and Junction 9 for Gatwick Airport, where resurfacing work continues. And on the rails, there's no service on Great Northern between Finsbury Park and Moorgate because of a signalling problem. LBC Travel, I'm Dave Goff.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation. The Nigel Farage Show.
Nicola says on Twitter, a rare outbreak of grown-up debate on LBC between Alastair Campbell and Nigel Farage. Restraint on all sides. More, please. Thank you, Nicola. Well, you know, it is Sunday morning, and actually, when I did a television thing with Alastair Campbell a few months ago, and we sort of finished up screaming at each other, it's quite fun to be cut and clipped and put out on Twitter and Facebook and everything else, but you don't get very far. I hope you felt that debate was worthwhile. I still find it very difficult when I talk to people who are as pro-Remain as Alastair, and indeed Nick Clegg going back 2 or 3 years, and you say to them, but do you really want to be signed up to this intensely political project that wants to drag us into its army and ultimately its currency and everything else? And they still seem to think that the Brits can have it both ways. And I honestly and truthfully do not believe that that is an honest position anymore. I think the mood of the European Union post-Brexit has changed. They are trying to complete the political project before others follow Britain's example. And my goodness me, you have got some rebellions going on out there. Poland having its voting rights suspended. Hungary being treated as a pariah. And in Catalonia, a majority, albeit slim, but a majority in those recent elections voting for parties that want Catalonia to succeed from Spain, knowing that means the European Union wouldn't have them. So there is massive protest out there. I'm fearful of a second referendum, and that's partly, of course, because of my experience of working within the European project. You know, we saw Denmark reject a treaty and be forced to vote again. We saw the Irish twice in the last 17 years vote against European treaties and forced to vote again. So I am worried. I'm worried that Parliament, in the face of what they see as a bad deal, will force a constitutional crisis upon us, and that could lead to a second referendum. I'm really giving a wake-up call to the Leave side. We need to get active. We need to start making the arguments. We should be pressuring Labour MPs, particularly in seats where a majority of the people voted Leave. We should be pressuring the government on issues like fisheries, on issues like immigration, which clearly to date have barely even been discussed. That's my view. Please challenge me. Tell me I'm wrong to think those things. Call 0345 6060 973. Text to 84850. Tweet using the hashtag Farage and LBC at LBC. Watch us on Facebook. And, of course, you can comment there too. Now, in this hour, we're going to have Lord Adonis come in. And Lord Adonis appears to have been given a completely new lease of life by the Remain argument. He is active everywhere. Alastair Campbell said he's on fire, and we had a bit of an exchange earlier this week, and we'll find out from Lord Adonis what his take on this is. But for now, it's you and me. It's Femi in Shoreditch. Good morning.
Good morning, Nigel. How you doing?
Good morning. I'm fine, thank you very much indeed, sir. Am I wrong to think that a second referendum is not desirable but possible, and that Leavers should get prepared?
Well, from everything I've heard, most Brexit voters aren't particularly happy with the way negotiations are going. They don't like the bill, they don't like the transition period, so I think even most Brexiters would think that it's their right to be able to review the deal. I mean, it's the will of the people. If the will of the people says that the negotiations are going to leave Britain in a worse position, then saying that they shouldn't have a say doesn't really make sense. And I was actually calling in relation to something you said earlier. You said how you were saying how your fear of a EU army was one of the reasons why you said we needed to have Brexit. What's exactly the reasoning behind that? Because defence policy requires unanimity, so they can't force us into an EU army. They can form one by themselves.
Okay. No, fine, understood. In his State of the Union speech, Mr. Juncker couldn't have been clearer. You know, we know that the European Union has had an emerging foreign policy over the course of the last few years. One of the constraints upon Brussels, and the Commission in particular, in doing what it would like to do with foreign policy, much of which, Femi, of course, includes expansion, which to the east, which I find very worrying in the case of Ukraine and others. But one of the reasons that's really inhibited them, as you quite rightly say, is that any country at the moment can veto a foreign policy idea for the European Union. What Juncker said in that speech clearly, and to a standing ovation in the European Parliament from political groups from right, centre and left, is that we will get rid of the veto on foreign policy, giving the European Union freedom to act. Now, Femi, I put this to you. that if you have a European Union that is expansionist, if you have a European Union whose foreign policy is no longer constrained in the same way by veto, and you have a European army, I find that a pretty worrying cocktail.
But here's the thing, though. The removal of veto would mean the transfer of powers from the state level to the EU level. That is the separation of powers in terms of who controls what. That's outlined in the treaties. In order to change that, you would need a unanimous change, a unanimous decision to change the treaty.
Yes.
So they literally can't remove our veto because we can veto the removal of vetoes.
Well,
so saying so in order for that to happen, we would have to agree. As a country, we have the sovereign right to agree whether or not they take away our power of veto. So saying, let's Brexit because they might have a EU army, let's Brexit because they might remove our vetoes, these are all things we have complete control over.
The trouble is, Femi, you can't, as a member of a club, veto everything. You know, there is always an element of horse trading that goes on. You can't just sit there and say no to everything. You can say no to some things, but not to everything. Femi, with or without us, would you agree with me that it is becoming, and they want it to be, an increasingly militarised European Union?
There are elements within the EU. For example, Juncker, who you keep mentioning,
he's the boss.
He's the boss. Yeah. Until 2019, something else happens that year. I forget what that is. Brexit. The year we leave to avoid people like Juncker is the year Juncker himself leaves, because commissioners have a 5-year term, after which they're chosen by the head of state that we elect.
Do you know, Femi, who the bookie's favourite is to succeed Juncker?
No, tell me.
It's Barnier. Barnier sees himself as the next big boss. Femi, I thank you for your points and for your call. Richard is calling from Manningtree. Good morning, Richard.
Oh, good morning, Nigel. Thank you very much for having the chance to call.
Not a bit.
My question would have been to Alastair Campbell. Irrespective of which way a person leans, whether you are on the Remain side or the Leave side, would he have not agreed that we are now at the point of no return, actually, because if we were to stay, would we not be expected to bow down to everything? I think we would be treated more harshly than we have been up to now, and that's been pretty bad.
Are we past the point of no return? Well, we have, of course, triggered Article 50, and that should mean that in 2 years' time, or sooner, we simply leave. So in that point, you'd have thought we're past the point of no return, Richard. The trouble is, there are plenty of very clever legal opinions. There were some being expressed on LBC yesterday morning. There are plenty of clever legal opinions that say, no. Article 50 can be revoked. The date can be extended. The whole thing can be abolished. Richard, I have no doubt you're right that if we as a nation were seen to be crawling back to the European Parliament and Commission, we would be treated pretty badly. Actually, we're being treated pretty badly in terms of our leaving. But folks, that is not because of Brexit. That is because of the government's interpretation of Brexit. It's the way they're doing Brexit. And I sometimes don't think, Richard, that the government in these negotiations recognise what a strong hand we've got.
Yes, it's a mystery to me as well, because I think we've got all the aces and we just haven't played them. I just don't understand it.
Well, Richard, my view, and again, anyone challenge me, tell me I'm wrong, I think that Brexit is a very big political task, and I don't see how a Prime Minister can take us through Brexit unless she believes in it herself. And when Ian Dale asks her, how would you vote if there was a referendum tomorrow? Answer, there comes none. Richard, I thank you. Alfred is calling from East Ham. Good morning, Alfred.
Nigel, hello there. When I hear Campbell saying, when you were putting the grand projet of the European Union, all-encompassing hegemony, and say, oh no, I think we can, we needn't be part of that. We could negotiate. I mean, look, if people didn't take the lesson from Greece about how amenable these people were to negotiation, I don't know what. They practically flushed the country down the toilet for the sake of sending a message. I mean, when you listen to what Varoufakis was talking about, how he went into negotiations,
I know.
And it was like a protection racket, be suited and briefcased. But look, what I think I said to him, what's your GDP? We command a GDP of so and so. You know, my GDP's bigger than yours.
Oh well, a bit like Trump's button, eh? Alfred, frankly, my view from the start is that ever since Article 50 was triggered, Barnier and his friends at the European Commission have treated the United Kingdom like a hostage. As if we're being held by them, and we've got to pay some huge ransom, a 40 billion ransom, to get out. And we're no one's hostage. We're a free country. We're free to do as we wish, and that includes walking away with no deal. And this concept, Alfred, that we currently have free trade with the European Union, it's not free. It's been costing £10 billion every year. And my sense, from what I saw with Mr. Barnier last week, is that if there was to be a deal for goods and services, that would involve us going on paying large sums of money and accepting, I think, the free movement of people too. Alfred, you make a great point. You're all making great points this morning. You're listening to the Sunday edition of the Nigel Farage Show, exclusively on LBC. It's now 11:15.
LBC and its sister stations from Global bring you a brand new event. The Global Awards, rewarding the very best from the world of music, news and entertainment. The Global Awards.
And the award for Best News Moment, Interview or Debate goes to...
One incredible night with performances from Andrea Bocelli and Sam Smith performing live. And you can have your say on who will win at the Global Awards. Voting is now open. To vote, download the Global Player app or go to lbc.co.uk. March the 1st, 2018. The Global Awards. It's coming.
The Bow Concept Winter Design Sale is now on. Discover a world of cool contemporary furniture and coordinated home accessories with great savings across the store. And why not take advantage of our free interior design service to help you make the most of your space? Visit one of our 7 stores in London, Kingston or Guildford to make the most of great savings in our design sale. Bow Concept, contemporary Danish design since 1952. Visit bowconcept.com for store details.
David's hot or not chicken curry.
On our very first date, my wife Maria said she loved spicy food. That's lucky, I said. I love it too. But the truth is I don't. Never have. So, whenever I cook her favourite curry, chicken Gujarati with green beans and fresh ginger, I add a spoonful of natural yoghurt in mine, and I keep stum.
Make your own hot or not curry with our tender, succulent British chicken. Food love stories, brought to you by Tesco.
Check messages, check tweets, check likes, check the score, check tomorrow's weather, check mum's okay, check last minute tickets. Check photos from Pete's stag.
Oh, let me see.
My phone's just died.
We check our phones, tablets and computers over 100 times a day, but we don't check our travel, so we don't know about delays till we're stuck in them. Check our travel updates whenever you check in to help you get where you need to be. Search TfL Check Your Travel. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters.
At Homebase, we want you to challenge us on the price of our new kitchens, even during competitor sales. So come put us to the test and book your free design appointment today. Homebase, always low prices.
For some, it's joining a gym. For others, it's giving up chocolate. For us, it's helping you break out into a bolder and brighter career. When it comes to exciting new challenges, a career in counselling with Chrysalis Courses can help you help others achieve their goals today and all year round. London courses start this spring, so apply now at chrysaliscourses.ac.uk. Chrysalis Courses. Change your today, transform their tomorrow.
Hi, I know you own a small business and I'm wondering if you're interested in some very well-paid new work. Funnily enough, did you know that about 59% of new customers don't leave a voicemail? Luckily, I'm not one of them. So call me on 074...
Don't cut off new business. Manage and divert your calls with eReceptionist so you'll never miss an opportunity again. Sign up for a free 30-day trial now at eReceptionist.co.uk.
T's and C's apply. See website for details.
At British Gas, we have everything you need for when winter does its worst. Our home care boiler cover starts from just £12 a month. That's less than 40p a day and includes a yearly service. Plus, we're giving you up to £100 to treat yourself when you buy selected home care products online by the 28th of February. So why wait? Search British Gas Home Care. Terms and conditions apply.
The Nigel Farage Show on LBC.
Monsieur Barnier left me very pessimistic about the deal we're going to get, and in turn, I'm worried that Parliament will veto virtually whatever deal is put in front of them, leading to a constitutional crisis. I fear a second referendum. I am trying my utmost to rally the Leave side, to say, come out of hibernation and let's get out there and campaign again. And we've had Alastair Campbell in, who took a lot of your calls, and we will, at the bottom of the hour, have Lord Adonis joining us, and he and I will have a chat. And equally, he is also prepared to take some of your calls. So Lord Adonis here in just over 10 minutes. But for now, quite a lot of complimentary stuff. For once, a sensible debate from Nigel and Alastair. And I think what she's referring to is the GMTV debate between Campbell and I, which was chaired by Piers Morgan, which did develop, Good Morning Britain, which did develop into a bit of a slanging match, but not today. Nigel is my next caller from Camden. Good morning, Nigel.
Yeah, hello, Nigel. How are you?
Good morning. Very well. What did you make of Alastair Campbell's comments today?
Campbell's kind of sitting on the fence like all the Remainers are. And I think that you're playing a little bit of a funny game with the Remainers as well. You're saying that they're really organised and the Leavers need to get organised. I think that the Remainers are in total disarray, and I think that you really know that. And what the Remainers really need to do is actually cease being Remainers, and they need to become integrators. So that the argument should be, does Britain stay out of Europe totally, or does Britain go into Europe totally? Because this compromise deal that the Remainers are kind of arguing for at the moment is going to end up failing totally.
Yes, I agree with that. And as I say, you know, when Nick Clegg says I'm a dangerous fantasist, there won't be a European army, and now we're told it'll be completed by 2025, you do see the weakness of that case. Nigel, there does seem to be a real reluctance for anybody on the Remain side to really come clean about what Europe is. It is about the creation of a new state. Do you know, Barnier said to me on Monday, we were talking about this, Barnier said to me on Monday, he said, you know, we are not building a federal Europe, we are building a unified Europe. And that actually is scarier, because a federal Europe would mean that the individual states would have, rather like America perhaps, would have quite a lot of say, quite a lot of power over their own lives. The idea of a unified, unitary state, I think it's one that if the British people really understood it, they would reject heavily.
Well, that would be up for them to reject.
Of course.
The truth is, that's absolutely what Europe needs. You've got your America, you've got your Trump-Putin nexus developing. A lot of people in Europe, the older generation that you point out are pro-Europe, they've lived with a divided Europe. They've lived with a lot of that Europe in the Soviet Union. And now we've got the younger generation highly exposed to Facebook, which I've been watching you on just now, and other social media, and the Russians are extremely effective at manipulating that, and you'll need a few percentage points and a bit of a manipulation, as you have seen in the United States, where 126 million Facebook users were exposed to Russian propaganda during their general...
Well, I think, Nigel, if you look at the actual sums of money that were alleged to be spent by the Russians in America, they were tiddly, but that's by the way. Do you think, Nigel, that a fully unified United States of Europe can work as a political concept?
Yes, I do. It'll take time. Obviously, all these things, they take time. But ultimately, it has to be a unified Europe. It has to be a unified Europe, because we have now big unified countries. China is on the global scene in a huge degree. Russia is not going to go away. The United States is huge. But Europe has to be a massive...
But Nigel, haven't we proved, Nigel, through NATO? Haven't we proved through NATO that actually countries cooperating together can still be hugely effective on the world stage?
No, I don't think so, actually. I think NATO at the moment is being destabilised by Trump. The last thing you want. Europe has got to stand together on its own and not be dependent on the United States.
I tell you what
might happen there.
I tell you what, Nigel, I disagree with you, and I didn't just want the United Kingdom to leave the European Union, I want Europe to leave the European Union. I think this project's now a force for bad, not a force for good. I believe in European nation-state democracy, cooperating very closely together. Would you agree with me that before the European Union makes these further fundamental moves towards that unitary state, would you agree with me that to do so without having the consent of the people in referendums in all the countries would be a mistake?
Now, just where you're going with this, okay? You're actually anti-Europe. No. I'm anti this undemocratic political project called the European Union. Well, listen, take your Brexit, get Britain out of Europe, that's fine, and then let Europe get on with being Europe. You are therefore no longer any part of that. Do Europe that favour. Get out and stay out.
I think you're in for a very, very big shock, Nigel, over the course of the coming years. I think there are some giant forces out there. I think 2016 was a big pivot year where the nation-state made a comeback, but you've got a very strong, passionate point of view that we've heard there from Nigel in Camden, and I thank you for putting it. I'm going to go to Chris in Rickmansworth. Chris, good morning.
Morning, Nigel. Great to talk to you. Nigel, I think the likelihood of a second referendum is incredibly strong now, particularly since yourself went on a certain TV programme in the week and said, yeah, I think it's incredibly likely. I think that's a red flag to the board of the likes of Tony Blair. Now Farage has said it, we can try and look at a way of dealing with this. And I think that's been the plan all along. And I'm sorry to say, Nigel, I've always been a big fan of yours, but my relationship with you now is a bit of a love-hate one because, in my opinion, I think you went too soon from UKIP. Now, I appreciate at the time you said you want your life back, etc., etc., but surely another couple of years, bearing in mind how long you've been arguing the case to leave the EU. I mean, you were back in the 90s, you were pretty much the sole voice saying, look, I want to get us out of this union. And then UKIP's now become redundant. I don't even know the guy's name that's taken over the party.
Henry Bolton is his name.
Thank you very much. I very rarely see him kind of getting on the platform and sending out the UKIP message that you certainly did. And the only person, apart from yourself, and I know you're still around, obviously, but the only other person really that has a little bit of political muscle, but nowhere near what you had, is Jacob Rees-Mogg.
Well, Chris, you know, UKIP and I had run our course, all right? You know, we'd won a dramatic referendum, UKIP and I had run our course, and it was the right time to get out. Of that, I have no doubt at all. You can't stay on, particularly being in the sort of public spotlight. You can't stay on in a job that you don't want to do. You've got to absolutely want to do it with your heart and soul, and I didn't. But, Chris, what I am trying to do, and the reason for raising this potential threat of Parliament rejecting the Barnier deal and the possibility, some think probability, of a second referendum, what I'm trying to do, Chris, is to rally the Leave side, people across the political spectrum and people in business, and I do think that if Leave starts to make the arguments, if we start to pressure Labour MPs in Leave constituencies, if we start to pressure the government a little bit more, if we start to have campaigns on behalf of our fishing industry and so on, Chris, we can win the argument. Do you know, I remember when Alastair Campbell, who kind of today tried to distance himself from the euro, didn't he? Oh, that was all Tony Blair, not me. OK. But I remember 20 years ago, Chris, thinking we would join the euro because there was no proper organised campaign against it. Then along came an outfit called Business for Britain and one or two others, and there was a really coherent, concerted voice telling us why joining the euro was the wrong thing, and they won the day. And Chris, let's put it like this. If the Leave side gets itself organised, starts campaigning again, we will make that second referendum less likely. And that really is my motivation this week.
Well, if I could just respond. I mean, I obviously don't know the full circumstance behind your reasons for wanting to leave UKIP. And although I respect what you've said, I still disagree. I think, bearing in mind the actual political it made a massive earthquake across the country politically. And as I said to you earlier, you were the one who really pretty much got this referendum for the country in the first place. I would have thought that you would have secretly thought, well, OK, I do want to leave this job, but I'm going to put the effort in for another couple of years. Let's get David Davis and all these other idiots to actually go and do their job. Actually, then because let's put it this way, we all know that every political party in Westminster, all they're really worried about is trying to win the next election and who might dilute their vote. I don't see... I mean, I was a Labour voter before UKIP sort of took the stage, so people that say that UKIP dilute the Tory vote, I disagree. I think it's a bit of a mixed bag. But
Chris, that was something that the press in Britain misunderstood completely. They thought all Eurosceptics were Tory, retired half-colonels living in Wiltshire, and that's where the UKIP vote came from. They didn't even see what we were doing to the Labour vote in South Wales, the Midlands and the North. And actually, do you know something, Chris? There is no doubt in my mind that in 2015... there would not have been a Tory majority had it not been for the UKIP vote. We hit Labour in that election far more than we hit the Conservatives.
I totally agree with you. But this is what I was trying to say, Nigel. If you... Again, I appreciate you've got a personal life. I appreciate you're just a human being at the end of the day. But I personally think, and I know a lot of former UKIP, I mean, I've moved away from vote. I mean, I had to vote Tory at the last election. It killed me, but I had to put...
As an ex-Labour man, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, but as I said to you, and I'll just make the point one more time, I think you went too soon. I respect your decision. I respect what you've said this morning.
Yeah, Chris, my relationship with the UKIP NEC had run its course. We'd won a referendum. But I haven't gone away, Chris. I shall be, this week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, in the European Parliament in Strasbourg. I'm still active in politics. I'm also very active here on LBC, which I'm thoroughly enjoying. And I hope all of you are too. So, after the break, Lord Adonis here in the studio. I'm going to have a chat with him. You can then directly put your questions to him. Lord Adonis, now one of the most prominent voices of the Remain campaign, the man who said himself on the Ian Dale show he wants to sabotage Brexit. 0345 6060 973 to call him, 84850 to text him, and using the hashtag Farage and LBC at LBC, you can ask him questions too. You're listening to the Sunday edition of the Nigel Farage show, exclusively on LBC. It's 11:30 and time for the news with Andy Ivey.
The Justice Secretary is considering a possible judicial review of the Parole Board's decision that serial sex attacker John Warboys can be released. The ruling sparked outrage amongst the former black cab drivers, victims and MPs. A tsunami warning has been issued for parts of Peru and Chile. There's been an earthquake with a preliminary magnitude of 7.3 off the coast. England's cricketers have beaten Australia by 5 wickets in the first one-day international in Melbourne. Jason Roy hit 180, the highest ever ODI score by an English batsman. LBC weather, dry with sunny spells, though cloud will linger in southeast England. Rain moving into western Scotland and Northern Ireland this afternoon. Highs of 8 degrees.
LBC travel in Hendon, Kingsbury Road is closed in both directions between the A5 Edgware Road and Goldsmith Avenue because of an accident. The queues past St Pancras Station on Euston Road eastbound. There's a lane blocked because of an accident at Argyle Street. Shepherd's Bush Green, the traffic lights are working at Goldhawk Road near the Shepherd's Bush Empire. In West Sussex, the M23 northbound is closed until tomorrow morning. That's between Junction 10 for Crawley and Junction 9 for Gatwick Airport, where resurfacing work continues. And on the rails, there's no service on Great Northern between Finsbury Park and Moorgate because of a signalling problem. LBC Travel, I'm Dave Goff.
This is LBC.
When you cough or sneeze into your hands, your germs can spread onto everything you touch and can live on a surface for hours for others to pick up, like on the phone.
Hello? Oh, it's for you, pet.
Oh, hi, Mum. How are you?
Oh, can I speak to Nan too, please?
So the advice from the NHS is to always catch your cough or sneeze in a tissue, then bin it, then wash your hands as soon as possible to kill the germs. Catch it, bin it, kill it. NHS, helping you stay well this winter.
When you need more space.
Think creatively. What could you use a log cabin for? A studio? A home office? A den for the kids? Creative Living will design and build a log cabin to suit your needs, even taking care of electricity and climate control. See for yourself at our 3 large cabin display villages in Surrey. Find out where at creativelivingcabins.co.uk.
Your own log cabin, handcrafted, the creative living way.
Don't be down. See, things are looking up. There's an upbeat upside to 2018 already. Just step up to the Renault Upgrade event. Upgrade your old car and get up to an additional £2,000 towards a Renault Kadjar, all-new Koleos or new Captur. It's up to you. Just order your upgrade by the 31st of March 2018. Visit renault.co.uk/upgrade to find out more. Vehicles must be registered by the 31st of March 2018, subject to status, T's and C's apply, 18+. Retail customers only, participating dealers only.
Travel Pack. Have the right flight at the right price. In fact, we'll price match most worldwide flights if you find one cheaper elsewhere at the time of booking. So, if you need to book a flight, remember the Travel Pack price match. Call Travel Pack on 0208 903 9999. You won't find a better price for your flight. Travel Pack 0208 903 9999. ATOL protected. Excludes low-cost operators. Competitors must be ATOL licensed. Conditions apply.
At UKME, our chauffeur service is 6-star. Just like the package we offer our drivers. Join the company that treats its drivers like VIPs. Apply today at ukme.co.uk.
This is the sound of a Virgin holiday at Walt Disney World Resort, Florida. And this is the sound of it disappearing in our January sale. The Virgin Holiday Sale. It won't last forever. Book direct at your nearest Virgin Holiday store. Seize the holiday. Virgin Holidays. Sale now on. ATOL protected.
I know who designed Princess Di's wedding dress. I know who phoned home. I know how to do a silly walk. And I know which part of the room you should never put baby in. But I don't know my state pension.
Find out how much you could get and when you can claim it. Get to know your pension. Visit yourpension.gov.uk.
The Nigel Farage Show on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Well, it's Brexit morning absolutely everywhere. Every radio show, every television show is doing the Brexit debate this morning. The big difference with this show on LBC is this is the only one where you, the public, get to ask your questions. And indeed, you were peppering Alastair Campbell with them earlier. And quite a lot of them were about the Labour Party and its position. The manifesto in the last election saying we're leaving, we're taking back borders, and Alastair saying, well, we can be a bit flexible with that. Well, Jeremy Corbyn himself has been out there doing the rounds this morning, and he appeared on Peston on Sunday. He insisted that his party is not supporting or calling for a second referendum. However, pressed on whether his party could support a second referendum in the future, he declined to say. We are not supporting or calling for a second referendum. What we've called for is a meaningful vote in Parliament. Asked whether he was ruling out a second referendum in the future, Mr. Corbyn said, we are not calling for one either. Joining me now is Lord Andrew Adonis. I'm going to call you a fanatical Remainer.
Well, you called me a weasel earlier in the week, Nigel.
And we're going to examine why. We're going to examine why.
But I take that as a high badge of honour. I hope you're going to do something else this morning, because I need something else to put on my Twitter.
I did notice that. Well, it is, of course, a wonderfully British sense of humour that when somebody abuses you, you pick it up and wear it as a badge of honour. And I do understand that. And years ago, when asked about UKIP, the Tory leader Michael Howard said they were a bunch of cranks and gadflies, and I've actually got a gadfly tie now.
Fruitcake, wasn't that what David Cameron called you?
Fruitcake was another one.
That's what made you from that moment.
It didn't do anything.
I've just come on to flatter you because I don't want to boost your following.
No.
The other thing I've come on to do, Nigel, I'm very, very anxious that you have the courage of your convictions, because I'm worried that you're slipping back. Earlier on in the week, you said you thought that another referendum was inevitable or likely. Then I think what happened is the number 10 people got to you, and they told you this was off message, and you couldn't do it. And you then said it was only fanatics like me that wanted the referendum. Well, Nigel, please go back to your position earlier in the week. The British people need to have a say on this treaty before it comes into effect.
We shouldn't even be having this conversation. As a proper democracy, we should be getting on with Brexit. That should be the end of it. However, the establishment, and very much hand in glove with the big multinationals and big businesses, and they're powerful.
But Nigel,
they're
you're
powerful, and I've seen them. I've seen them again and again and again. We'll come to that. We'll come to that little joke too.
You run the country.
But I definitely, after my meeting with Barnier, my mind changed. I was in a position of most leavers of saying, not only do we not want a second referendum, but we're not going to have one. And I now can see that the deal that's going to be offered is likely to be rejected by the House of Commons. And I think a second referendum is now very likely, and I'm saying this as a big warning shot to all the Leavers that I think that it could happen. But can you please just tell me, what do you think of the Labour Party position on all of this?
Well, I think Labour will support a referendum. I was in the Peston studio, literally come hot foot from Peston. I came as fast as I could because I knew you wanted me on your programme, Nigel. So I did your bidding. But what was very striking about what Jeremy said was it was all in the present tense. He's not supporting a referendum now. Well, nobody thinks there's going to be a referendum now. I mean, it's still 15 months before we leave the European Union. So what I think will happen is that when we come to this so-called meaningful vote in the autumn, I think at that point there'll be huge pressure on Parliament to refer that to the people, and for a very good reason, which is that the people had the first say in this whole process. They had the first say, let's be frank, in large part because that's what you wanted. You know, your party, UKIP, over many years of campaigning, got the referendum on the agenda. They had the first say, but of course they didn't know what the deal was going to be then. And my own view, and it's the view I would take in Parliament myself, is that Parliament itself cannot trump the people. We're a democracy. The people had their say at the outset, but of course the people didn't know what the deal was going to be.
But it wasn't conditional, was it?
It wasn't conditional. It should be referred to the people.
I mean, the point about the Leave vote is we voted to leave. We voted to leave political union. We voted to get back our sovereignty, control our borders. We didn't vote on whether we should have, what sort of relationship we should have with the single market. We simply voted to leave.
But that's what we'll vote on next time, Nigel. Next time we'll vote on the actual prospectus for leaving, rather than whether we think it might be a good idea with 350 million a week for the NHS on the side of a bus, which then evaporated the day after the referendum,
which, by the way, getting back to our little spat on Monday morning on Good Morning Britain, you attributed to me, and it had nothing to do with me at any point of that campaign, all right?
See, the problem, Nigel, is that I attribute to you the whole leadership of the Leave movement, because you are. I mean, you are effectively Prime Minister of the country at the moment. So, and there's this thing called collective responsibility, Nigel. When you're running the country as you are at the moment, because you are the establishment, you do have to take responsibility for the Goves, the Johnsons, the Liam Foxes. So when they put on the side of their bus 350 million for the NHS, I'm afraid we think that you're held accountable to it, and that's why I've come on the programme here to hold you accountable.
It's all very amusing, but the idea that Theresa May is doing my bidding, I tell you what, if she was, we wouldn't have offered 40 billion to leave. I tell you what we're going to do.
Well, she doesn't do it very well. She's not. She doesn't she's not sufficiently close to you, Nigel.
We know that.
But I think what you should then do is dismiss her and replace her with somebody who's a more effective vehicle for your wishes.
Do you know what? I will do my very best. Now, we're being bombarded with questions. So we have the Brexit saboteur, Lord Adonis, here, ready for your questions. And the first one is coming from Shanghai in China, and James is on the line.
I'm looking forward to the Chinese view of the world.
Good morning, Nigel. Big fan. Lord Adonis, can't say the same thing, I'm afraid, mate.
That's right. I know I'm an interloper on this programme, but I'm taking on the establishment, so I'm doing my best.
You couldn't make it up, James, could you, really? But come on, fire your question in all the way from Shanghai.
OK, my question to Lord Adonis is this. Obviously, you think the EU is a great deal. I wholeheartedly disagree with you. And my question, therefore, is, do you actually understand how expensive sending money overseas, either via massive trade deficits or EU payments, is to the UK when you factor in monetary velocity and then magnify that by how money is created and the velocity on the created money? Do you understand that?
Well, let's be clear. Nigel and his colleagues have just agreed an exit bill from the EU that's going to cost us £39 billion. That's the latest Treasury estimate, but it could well be a lot more than that. So there's no cost-free option here, and leaving is going to be hugely expensive. I don't want to incur that exit bill. I think we're much better off as we are, because we have full membership of the single market, full membership of the customs union. That is the majority of our trade, including the countries we have trading agreements with by virtue of being in the EU, and I don't want to put that in jeopardy.
James?
We voted out of all of that. And also the question was, do you understand how monetary velocity works? And do you understand how it works when it's magnified when money is created in the British banking system? Do you understand that? And do you understand the implications?
James, I think that is getting a bit too deep. Even, if we start to get involved with quantitative easing, money creation, we'll go down the wrong route. But James, you can rest assured, when you asked your question and got your answer from Andrew Adonis, that actually when you meet a true believer in the European project, it's rather like talking to a born-again Christian. You know, if you question the existence of God, they just can't have a conversation with you. James, I thank you. I'm going to squeeze one more in before the break.
Nigel,
if I can.
you're like talking to the atheist who there's no truth to be had whatever in divine revelation.
Do you know something? I am very pro European cooperation. I'm very pro-European trade. I'm very pro working with our next-door neighbours in a responsible, grown-up way. What I'm not pro is being part of a political union and part of a law-making structure that we, through our democratic vote, can't alter.
But the best way of getting on with our European colleagues is to do so in an integrated structure which organises it, because otherwise it's all haphazard, hit and miss, and that's been the problem which we've had in the past history of this country.
But I want us to make our own laws. The point is, I want us to make our own laws by people who are directly accountable to us. Sovereignty should be there with the people. They should make these decisions. And as you well know, once something becomes European law, there is nothing the British government, Parliament or people can do to change that law.
But Nigel, you're a member of the European Parliament.
I know.
You're there. I'm told you're actually going to turn up there this week.
I know.
You're making a special visit.
And we cannot.
So you have a say.
Propose law,
I don't have that say, unfortunately. But you have this say, Nigel. You have a vote.
Do you deny?
I'm told you don't vote very often. If you voted more, maybe you'd have more influence over these laws.
The European Union Parliament cannot propose legislation, and it cannot repeal legislation. All of that rests with the unelected European Commission, which for me is at the heart of this debate. Listen, we're going to come back to this.
I'm looking forward to
Andrew Adonis and I will debate more. You will get lots more questions. You're listening to the Sunday edition of the Nigel Farage Show, exclusively on LBC. It's 11:45.
Coming up at 12 on LBC, Majid Nawaz.
The Justice Secretary is preparing to intervene to halt the release of black cab rapist John Warboys following a public outcry over the decision to release him. Is it right for the government to intervene in parole decisions?
Majid Nawaz on LBC.
Your company's doing pretty well. Your tax position's okay. So what's keeping you awake at night?
To face the future with confidence, talk to Vision Consulting. We've expanded from Gants Hill to the Gherkin, with clients from the fishmonger to the multi-million-pound property investment company. And our growth as a firm of chartered accountants and registered auditors is based on our passion for our clients' business.
Have confidence in your accountant. See visionconsulting.co.uk.
At Nissan, we've merged
3 different offers
to create a bigger one.
The Nissan 321 Go offer.
With a price from $199 per month at 0% APR representative for a new Qashqai.
A promise such as 3 years warranty and RAC roadside assistance.
And a perk, like 2 years servicing. Available on Qashqai and connected with glass roof pack.
Retail customers only.
Nissan Finance. 36 monthly payments. Subject to status, over 18s.
10% minimum deposit at £6,975. Optional final payment of £10,866.
Up to 3 years warranty or 60,000 miles. Certain parts and labour only.
At participating dealers.
Offer ends 2nd of April 2018. T's and C's apply at nissan.co.uk.
Yes, you guessed it. N-Power's back with superpowers, and I'm here with Christian, the finger-clicking maestro. That's top clicking.
Cheers.
And here's something else to grab your attention. Drum roll, please. In just a few clicks, you can go greener with N-Power's Go Green Energy Fix. Planet-friendlier energy at a pocket-friendly price. And they'll plant a tree for every sign-up. Cheeky. Switch to green at npower.com/go green. You have the N-Power. Terms and conditions and exclusions apply.
Make your money go further, further, further. Travel on the Night Tube or London Overground night services, and you'll only need to pay an off-peak fare. So it costs less than you may think. Which is good news for your wallet. It's part of the commitment by the Mayor and TfL to make travel in London more affordable. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters.
This is an important announcement. Flu viruses will live for hours on hard surfaces, making flu very easy to spread. So whenever you sneeze or cough, always remember, catch it, trap the germs in a tissue, bin it, throw the tissue away, kill it. Wash your hands to get rid of any remaining germs. Catch it, bin it, kill it.
For more information about how to protect you and your family from flu this winter, visit nhs.uk/staywell.
My job often involves filling jobs, so finding a reliable way to recruit staff is vital. That's why I always trust Recruitment Genius. They write a great job ad for me, advertise it on up to 2,000 job sites, and they even screen and filter the applicants. Then I just select the best ones for interview. All this for a flat fee of £199 plus VAT at 20%. Using Recruitment Genius makes me a recruitment genius. Create a free account today at recruitmentgenius.com.
Brightening up your home this weekend? At B&Q we've got a fantastic paint and decorating range at prices you'll love, like 10 litres of Leyland Pure Brilliant White and Magnolia Matte Emulsion was £12, now £10. And Dial 5-piece paintbrush set for just £9.87. The wow starts now at B&Q. Offer ends 31st of January. Some stores excluded. See DIY.com for details.
Come and experience Lebanese dining at Marouche Restaurants. Try some of our amazing dishes, kafta dipped in a delicious hummus, or a colourful meze, complemented by a robust Lebanese red. With live music and traditional belly dancing, enjoy an atmosphere to match the food's rich and distinctive flavours. Go to Marouche.com to find out more. Marouche Restaurants, the finest Lebanese food across London.
The Nigel Farage Show. Text 84850.
Well, on the Nigel Farage Show this morning, we have got the Remainers. They're out in force. We've had Alastair Campbell. We've now got Lord Andrew Adonis, and he is taking your questions and your comments. And I'm going to go to Claire in Edgware. Good morning, Claire. What would you like to ask?
Good morning, Lord Adonis. It's looking increasingly likely that we're not going to get a deal that pleases anybody, and we're heading towards a general election, and c'est la vie. But in extremis, could we accept the Theresa May deal, reject the Theresa May deal, or maintain the status quo? Because we had a Queen's Counsel on LBC earlier who said, if we decide that nothing is acceptable and we want a meaningful vote on the final deal, as you've proffered, if we decided that we didn't wish to go ahead with Brexit and we withdrew from Article 50 before the time period is up, we could actually stop the process.
Yes is the answer to that. We can stop it. We can withdraw the notice under Article 50, and then we continue as members of the European Union. And that's what Nigel and his colleagues are deeply afraid of, is that we've still got 15 months when the British people can consider the terms, and if they reach the judgment that they're not good terms and that jobs, trade are much better off by us staying in the European Union, then the act is very simple. We simply withdraw that notice under Article 50. And this notion that Mrs May is putting out, that the choice is between her deal and crashing out with no deal, is pure spin. Parliament will decide what the options are which are put to the British people, and the obvious and logical option is her deal, which is the best deal that she believes it's possible to get, on the one hand, and staying in on the other. And though I don't think Nigel and I are going to be on the same side of that referendum on the substance, we do seem to be edging crab-like towards agreeing that the British people are sovereign and that they should have the say on this, and it shouldn't just be left to MPs and peers.
I think, to be honest with you, that if Article 50 was revoked, that would be an outrage. To me, however bad the deal is, and under this Prime Minister, it's unlikely to be very good.
Yeah, we're agreed on that.
You know,
we've agreed on something. The deal that Mrs May gets is not going to be a good deal.
Where we'll agree.
Yeah.
But to me, the most important thing to me is that we leave, and even if it is a rotten deal, we can sort that out at future general elections. It would still be a terrific wasted opportunity. But you mentioned Parliament. You're a member of the House of Lords. When you talked about sabotaging Brexit, did that include the way you vote as a member of the House of Lords?
I've been very, very clear. I'm a Democrat. The role of the House of Lords, in my view, is to refer this treaty, whatever it is that Mrs May negotiates, which we're agreed is going to be a bad deal, refer that to the people. I do not believe it's right for the House of Lords to try and block it. I don't think that would be appropriate because we're an unelected House.
Let's be clear, because this is not really, I mean, you know, we've heard you on everything. This has not really come out. Are you saying that as a member of the House of Lords, you would vote for a referendum on the final deal?
Yes, but I'm not going to vote to block the deal. I don't think the House of Lords constitutionally has the power to block the deal. I think the House of Commons could, because that directly represents the people, but it is absolutely appropriate, in my view, for the House of Lords to say that there should be a referendum, because our constitutional role is to safeguard democracy. That is the role of a second chamber, and there's no bigger democratic issue which the British people face now than whether we should or shouldn't crash out of the European Union.
If it came to a really big vote in the House of Lords, and the House of Lords did vote for the government deal to go to a referendum, do you understand why there is a growing tide of voices saying that actually this House of Lords is just made up of mates of Blair and Camerons, and frankly, is perhaps the most London-based, the most establishment-based House of Lords we've ever had.
Nigel, can I commiserate with you on the fact that you're not a member of the House of Lords?
Well, I'm not a friend of Blair's or Cameron's, am I?
I understand that you're very keen to join.
No.
Now, I'm prepared to make you an offer. I will trade my peerage for your German passport, because I understand that you have one. Is this true?
No. You really don't want to believe all this fantasy stuff.
I've been reading the wrong newspapers.
Well, I tell you what.
But then you could be there yourself, and you could vote.
I think this House of Lords...
And you could then vote for the
referendum. I think this House of Lords is a joke. I think it has to go and be replaced by an elected Senate. Let's get on with the questions. We're going to Colm from Omar, who's on the line. Good morning.
How you doing?
Good morning. Put a question, please.
Well, I've a question for both of you, but I want to ask Lord Adonis. Do you think Nigel's just realised how catastrophic this is going to be for Britain and wants a new referendum?
So the question is, has Nigel realised how catastrophic this will be for Britain?
I think he's getting there. Is my reading of this conversation? But he's getting there. He's getting there, realising that the British people need to have a say. Let's be frank. We know which side Nigel's going to be on when it then comes to the referendum. But we're moving towards agreement that it's the British people who are in charge, and they're the ones who should reach the judgment on whether or not Mrs May's deal goes ahead.
Well, I think, to be honest with you, that is a slight misreading of what I'm saying. What I'm saying is I have seen the dishonest establishment, and I've seen it in Denmark, I've seen it in Ireland, making people vote again, and I just don't trust this lot. And you've already heard Lord Adonis telling us that as a member of the House of Lords, he would vote for this to go to a referendum, and I'm fearful that the deal will be seen to be rotten. I think we may well face another referendum on this. I pray we don't. But the one thing I'm trying to do is to make sure that I'm ready for it when it does come. Bob is calling from Salford. Good morning, Bob.
Good morning, Nigel, Lord Adonis. First thing, I think you're 100% right, Nigel. They'll force a second referendum, even though they don't want to call it that. But the question to Lord Adonis is, if this second referendum is based on more knowledge, can you add to that knowledge and describe what you think the EEC will look like in 5 years' time?
Well, I hope that what we'll do together is build more prosperity. What I want to see is more trade, and in particular, which is why the single market's so important, I want to see Britain's hugely successful service sector, which has millions of jobs. I want to see it trading much, much more ambitiously across Europe and internationally. And that's what I'd like to see happen over the next 5 years. I don't want us wasting our time extracting ourselves in very complicated treaties from the very trading arrangements which are vital to our future prosperity.
But the question Bob's asking is, do you support... Look, the EU's made it clear. In future, there won't be the opt-outs and exemptions that we've seen in the past. We will have to join, according to Mr Juncker, the Euro. We'll have to join the Schengen area and the European Army.
No one has said that we have to join any of these things, Nigel.
Oh, they have.
That's a figment of your fevered imagination. That is absolutely not true.
Just like Nick Clegg in 2014, when I said there'd be a European army, he said I was a dangerous fantasist. And this is the problem. Why don't you tell the British people the truth?
We are not joining the Euro.
Why not admit to them it's a United States of Europe they're building?
Yeah, the Euro is not going to be on the ballot paper for this referendum. What's on this the ballot paper for this referendum is staying in the existing European Union, which is the single market, the customs union, safeguarding jobs, and coming back to the question, enabling us to trade more in the future.
There is no existing European Union.
Which is great for British jobs and for British people.
This idea that the European Union represents status quo is simply not the case. It is moving very quickly. Now, we've got one last question, and it's a really important one. James from Islington, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for taking my call. I'd like to ask you both, actually, assuming there was to be a second referendum, which I personally don't agree with, what would the question be?
OK.
The question would be, do you support Mrs May's Brexit deal, or do you want to stay in the European Union? That will be the choice, and that is the absolutely fair and legitimate question to ask, because Mrs May will have spent 2 years negotiating on behalf of the British people for the best deal she can get in Brussels. Nigel has told us he thinks it's going to be a bad deal. I agree with him, so therefore I think the right thing for us to do is not to have any of this nonsense, to stay in, protect our jobs, and then move on to dealing with the big social problems that we face, which have been kicked into touch by this whole Brexit nonsense.
the first referendum, James, was about sovereignty. The second referendum will have to be about ultimate sovereignty, to put a complex deal to a referendum which is on economics, which doesn't even include immigration, doesn't even include democracy and lawmaking, I think would perhaps be a very big mistake. Because it's very interesting, when I was there with Barnier, I mentioned immigration, one of the key drivers of that vote for us to leave, and it hadn't even been discussed. They saw that as coming later. We have run out of time. I want to say big thanks to Andrew Adonis, Lord Adonis, for coming and joining us here and being a great sport and taking lots and lots of your calls.
I'm looking forward to seeing you in the House of Lords soon, Nigel.
I tell you what,
I'm sure you'll be there before
given
long.
Given the Chums Club that it is, there's no chance of me ever being there. You've been listening to the Sunday edition of the Nigel Farage Show here on LBC. I'm back tomorrow night from Strasbourg at 7. Coming up at 3 this afternoon, it's Alex Salmond. But up next, it's Majid Nawaz.
I did a show a long time ago saying you should be in the Lords, Nigel.
Oh, that's very sweet of you, thank you.
There's a clip on the lbc.co.uk website.
It's not going to happen in a hurry, believe me.
Coming up, record numbers of homeowners in wealthy areas of London are selling up to quit the capital as price growth slows. Are you giving up on London? Before that, the British Army yesterday defied critics of its recruitment campaign, labelled as politically correct and weak, as it released a new set of TV adverts, including one showing a Muslim soldier praying in front of his comrades. Why would you see diversity in the army as a sign of weakness and not strength? But first, the Justice Secretary is preparing to intervene to halt the release of black cab rapist John Warboys following a public outcry. Is it right for the government to intervene in parole decisions?
On FM, online, on your mobile, and on digital radio. Leading Britain's conversation. This